Live from Latrobe Motorsports Studios, this is Ride Along with Howie, from the fast half-mile track at Latrobe Speedway, where it's grassroots racing at its finest. Here's Howie.
Race fans, it's time for another Ride Along with Howie, sponsored by S&B Promotions and Latrobe Speedway and the fine folks at Joe's Auto Body and Towing. Tonight, we're going to be joined first by a driver who picked up a career first win last Saturday night. What a night it was for Sam Eichelberger, pilot of the number 17 Pro Stock. Sam, welcome to Ride Along.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, man, that was awesome. I got to tell you, your car's been getting better week in and week out. And last Saturday night, it just seemed like there was no stopping it.
Yeah, it just seemed like everything finally clicked. You know, we work on it week in and week out. You know, we have a GoPro inside the car and, you know, really critical on watching myself and seeing what I do during the race and try to make the right adjustments, you know, to make the car better. And it seemed like we got it right this past weekend and it worked out pretty well.
How exciting was it on Father's Day with your father there and your kids there to get that career first?
That's just the perfect story. You know, I don't think I was meant to be in victory lane until both of my boys could be there with me. And then just to have my dad there on Father's Day for the first win, that was just the icing on the cake.
Hey, Sam, let's go back and start at the beginning. How did you get involved in racing?
Well, you know, we've always been interested in it, if you will. We've always gone to the racetrack, we've always watched. I remember going to Motordrome in Jennerstown when I was real young, almost weekly, you know. Just never really had the means to do it at that time. And then, you know, later on, you know, I was in college and, you know, my dad and I were going to Lernerville like every week watching. And then, you know, we just decided, you know, we want to give it a shot. So we were always into cars. You know, my dad had a 1976 Stingray Corvette that he had played with and tinkered with, you know, restored over the years. And he just decided, hey, you know what, we're going to get rid of this car and we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a race car. And I didn't even know I was going to be the driver. You know, I thought it was going to be Dad's deal and, you know, I was going to help. And, you know, as luck would have it, I'm sitting in the driver's seat 12 years ago. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. And we just get out and do it as much as we possibly can and, you know, learn by doing.
And along the way, you went from buying cars to this one. You guys bought a chassis and actually did all the work yourself, correct?
Yeah, you know, I'd say, let's see, those first two cars we bought were, I mean, they were older cars. They were rollers, though, but regardless, we still stripped them down and redid them. But this car, yeah, this is a 2019 Johnson chassis. It took me a little while to put it together. But we just drug it home as just a bare chassis. It didn't have even shock mounts or body tabs or bumper sockets on it or anything. So a lot of fabrication work went into it. You know, we do all of our own bodies, our own engine work, rear ends, all our own welding, you know. About the only thing we haven't done was, you know, do a shock package or, you know, weld a car up from nothing, you know.
What do you like doing best on the car? The fabricating, the driving, the general maintenance, wash day?
Wash day is mundane. I don't care for wash day so much. It's just something you have to do. I really enjoy the setup because it's a mind game. You know, you have to really be in the loop and really know what the car needs or what you are lacking in. You know, it's really hard sometimes when you're just learning how to do this to distinguish what a loose race car is versus what a tight race car is, or is my car actually tight and I'm just breaking it loose to make it turn? You know, it's those kind of things where you have to think about and, you know, kind of come up with the adjustments that you need to make in order to make the car better. That's what I enjoy.
How did you learn about setups? Through trial and error, or maybe another driver took you under their wing, or?
Honestly, it was trial and error. I never had another driver take me under their wing. We never had a team that we shadowed. You know, I'm the first generation in our family to do this. What I do is I try to find as much reading material as I possibly can. And I guess my background being a mechanical engineer, like everything's just by the numbers, everything's black and white. I have to study a textbook and have it make sense. You know, I can't just take somebody's advice and throw it on the car and try it. So I do a lot of literature by Bob Bowles. There's a good textbook by, I think their last names are Milliken and Milliken. They were a couple of GM engineers that wrote actually it's like a 700-page textbook back in the 70s about race car vehicle dynamics. So leaf through that a little bit. Engine building, you know, I read a lot about David Bizard to put combinations together, you know, what's best. You know. So whatever I can find, whatever I can read, you know, I have my nose in a book.
It seems like those are giving you an ideal situation. And one thing with running a dirt track, it's never an ideal situation. So do you bounce the ideas off your dad, or you just go in your head basically and have a plan on how to attack the track?
Yeah, so I usually bounce the motor things off of my dad, any kind of motor questions as far as, you know, carburation or, you know, camshaft design or what have you, or hey, the motor's doing this, what should we change? Should we try some timing here and there? When it comes to driving and setup, I actually talk to Cam Krasinger a lot. He's a really good driver, and he can really point out, you know, on the GoPro, like what I'm doing and what I need to change or what the car should be doing. So it was kind of like a good team that we had last year, where I was able to do that for him, and, you know, give him some setup advice. And this year he's able to do that for me. Like, you know, looks like your car's doing this or you doing that. So let's think about changing this or that.
When you put the GoPro in to the car, do you put it on like you and a head, or just a head, to see, like, you know, what you're doing, maybe hands wise, or do you run multiple GoPros? I know some guys do that.
I only have one. I'm always watching my hands, you know, because that was the hard thing that I had to learn, was being really smooth with my hands, not jerking the wheel around a lot. I've also put it on, you know, some parts of the suspension just to make sure that the right front's getting down to where it needs to be, and just to see what it's doing, you know. So I played around with it a good bit.
Now, you mentioned the car. It's a 2019. Basically, what, about 2.5 years to get this car together? But, you know, when you got it together, a lot of guys up here run a Chris Schneider built car, or Bobby Whitling, the slider chassis. What made you decide to go with the Johnson?
You know, both of those chassis manufacturers, you know, you can get a very good car from them. You know, no doubt. I've seen their work, and they're, you know, great fabricators. I really just wanted something that wasn't built on a 40-some-year-old frame, to be honest. You know, so it was, and actually when we started building this car, it was for the Rush stock car series at Lernerville, and this was legal. You know, it said Johnson chassis legal, and you thought, you know what, these are pretty popular down south, and I think they're going to make their way up here sooner or later, just because it's hard to source frames anymore. So we went that way, and it was pretty affordable, and the craftsmanship is just second to none on it. AJ does an excellent job with fabricating these.
And I know there's one other up in this area. Brian Dougherty, I believe, has a Johnson. Were you two able to work together on any ideas, or you like doing your own deal per se?
I'm basically out here on an island doing my own deal. I think Brian Dougherty's car, they used a Johnson chassis front stub, and I think it was Andrew Wiley, probably. I think he put the car together for him.
Okay.
My car is just the complete front to back Johnson chassis.
And I noticed you mentioned yourself, you used to run at the Latrobe Speedway. You made the switch over to Latrobe. Do you like the bigger track better, or just, you know, maybe it's closer to home, or Saturday's a better night for racing? But what made you decide to leave Lernerville and come to Latrobe?
Saturday night's a better night for us for racing. You know, just getting off of work and then, you know, trying to get the car and everything over to Lernerville was a lot of work, especially with the kids. But you know what? I think the other thing is, you know, we really like the atmosphere at Latrobe. A lot of good people there. And you guys, you get it. You know, we understand as drivers that without a racetrack, we don't have a place to go. And you guys understand that without drivers, you don't have fans in the stands. So I really like you guys including us in like the Rolls meeting every off season. And, just not that you guys have to cater to us or anything, but you just appreciate us being there. And that goes a long way.
It's a two-way street. And you said it yourself. You need to have cars in the pits. You need to have fans in the stands. If you don't have either, you're not going to have a racetrack. And, we appreciate you taking the time because, you can go anywhere you want and you choose to come to Latrobe. And it was great Saturday night. I'm an announcer and I don't have a favorite, but I get very excited when I get to see somebody get that career first. Some people, they might race for a year or two and get that win. You've been doing this for 12 years off and on, and just to get that win and to see the look on your face and on your dad's face, let alone the boys, your two sons.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the happiest person might have been Cam Kreisinger. It was just
pumped up.
I mean, there was a mile worth of smiles in that victory lane, and that was just exciting to see. And yeah. I just want to say, people think, oh, this is an easy thing. You go out and you buy a car and you go racing, and today just getting the parts is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two ways you can go about it. I mean, well, number one, you have to be a driver, though. I mean, you can have the best of everything, and if you can't drive a car, you can't drive a car. But I mean, yeah, you can go out and source it from everybody else, and that's one way to do it. And there are people out there that base their businesses around that, and that's one way to do it. The other way is just to, do it yourself and try to learn as much as you can along the way. And it might take longer to get there, but that's the way we decided to go.
We mentioned, the big smiles in victory lane, and one thing I was talking to you earlier in the night, I noticed your boys are there and they're trying to help out. They're very, very young right now, but they're in there and they're giving it their all too. And, I kind of admire the fact that it's a family team. You, your dad, your boys, your wife, and maybe I don't know if you're related to Cam or not, but, seeing Cam there with his son. And it's kind of cool. It's like, you got that next generation with your boys and Cam's.
Yeah. No, it's certainly a team effort. It's a family deal. We couldn't do this without any one of them that were there. It's really cool sharing that with my kids. That they are trying to help out whatever way they can, wiping the car down or, just having fun being there. But everybody plays a part.
And your wife, she gives up a lot to be able to go to the races. I know she's always there with you and keeping an eye on the next generation, your boys, and, keeping them safe. And that just says a lot. You know what I mean? When the whole family can do something, it's just great, because then when you're in that garage and you're putting hours in with your dad, and your boys are coming out, it just doesn't seem like work, does it?
No, it's especially when my oldest can come out and help, and I usually give him a wrench or something. And he runs around the car and just beats and bangs on it or something for right now. But when he's out there, he has fun, But yeah, my wife does put up with a lot for us to do this. She wrangles the kids, every Saturday night when we're there, and she helps out with just watching them or helping me or letting me have the time to do this,
And people think racing, you just put the car in the box, pull it out next Saturday. That's a 40-hour-a-week job, isn't it? By the time you go through the car, if you have any issues, you got to change them or fix them and restock the trailer and everything that it takes to race.
Yeah, a good week is a week where you can bring it home, wash it, and park it in the garage and just do your general maintenance or your setup work. We've been fortunate to have a couple of those weeks. That's been nice, but I've been on the other end of the stick there too, where you bring home a really beat up race car or tore up, and it takes a lot of work to put it back together.
Now, You guys have, as far as I can remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, always had yellow car, correct?
No, it's changed a lot actually. See, the first car we had, it was white and red. Um, Second car was white and blue. I think I did an all
Okay.
blue car one year. And then, too many different colors of sheet metal. And it's like, let's just pick a color, stick with it. That way, when I have scraps sitting downstairs, I need to make something. I probably have something down there. So we decided, you know what? Nobody really buys yellow. And especially now with having a hard time getting material in, I can usually get yellow aluminum. So we went with yellow.
Nothing wrong with that. And number 17, where did that come from?
Really, I don't know. It really just no significance, really. I mean, I was married on September 17th, but I didn't, pick it because of that date. The first number was actually 27X, and we did that for a while, and we did the crate late models and such.
I
But
remember that.
yeah, we got out of it for a little bit when we came into stock cars, and I was like, you know what, just new beginning, new number. Let's start over.
Anything you learned in those late models, were you able to transfer into the stock car, or
Uh,
just
no, they're completely different animals. I mean, I wish I would have started off in stock cars. I mean, we got started in the crate late models just because at that time it was a new division. You could pick up an old roller for very cheap, and it was affordable at that time. And there's been a whole industry that's grown around that now, but they are just completely different to drive. I feel like a late model, you can be very aggressive with it. You can throw the car around a little bit. The car will tolerate being a little more sideways, but when it comes to driving, a pure stock or a pro stock, you really kind of have to keep the car straight and keep the back tires under you. So that was a hard thing that I had to learn. Was I was never very smooth with either my pedal controls or the steering wheel, and this really kind of amplified it. So I had to learn how to do that.
and we talked about the crew. Any sponsors or anybody that helps make the racing possible?
First and foremost, I have to thank my wife. She lets me do this. It takes a good bit of money and time to do this, so forever grateful for her for letting me do this. My parents for helping me out. They got us started. They're always there at the track to support me. It takes multiple incomes to put this car together. To make it to the track. I got to thank Cam Krasinger, his new business, Additive Edge. We'll have his stickers here on the car here shortly. So I got a couple tires from Cam, so that was pretty nice. And then
What's
go ahead.
what's that business?
Additive Edge, it's 3D printing. So rapid prototyping. He also does like 3D printing for like the medical or dental industry. So it's something that's a startup that he started up now. And then probably lastly, I got to thank, it's not a sponsor on the car, but I got to thank Hamill Manufacturing because I couldn't tell you how many times my dad's drug into work, bent up race car parts or had to fabricate something here or there. And he was allowed to, use their equipment to do so. Or, some of those parts turned into great, training material for journeyman apprentices. So, there's a lot of, some of the area's best journeyman machinists probably worked on parts for my race car.
Well, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a whole industry to build your race car, right?
It certainly does. Yes, it does.
Hey, Sam, real fast. You mentioned you're a mechanical engineer. Do you think that helps you or hurts you when it comes to racing? And what I mean by that is, being an engineer, you look at something from many different angles versus where, don't take this wrong, somebody maybe not as well educated as you just looking at it from one angle. Do you find yourself overthinking it when it comes to the racing?
Oh yeah. So it's helpful when it comes to understanding how the car works, and it's a hindrance to driving. because I think too much when I'm in the driver's seat. Sometimes I really just need to throw that out of my mind and just drive the car, you know? So, yeah, it's helped me get to where I am as far as, learning the setup work, building the cars and whatnot. The driving part's just always been lagging, just always trying to learn how to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a fan, I'd give your driving a 10 out of 10 on Saturday. You didn't put a wheel wrong all night. And on behalf of the fans and Latrobe Speedway, again, I want to congratulate you on that career first feature win. You definitely earned it, and you should be very proud. And your whole family should be very proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. It still hasn't quite set in yet. So I'm just glad it finally happened, and it couldn't have happened on a better weekend.
Race fans, that's Sam Eichelberger, pilot number 17, Specialty Metals Pro Stock. Sam, thank you for your time, and good luck the rest of the season.
All right. Thank you, Howie.
Race fans, right now we're going to grab a word with the driver who won his third career Pure Stock feature this past Saturday night, the pilot of the Ferris Carpet Outlet and Tile, car number 22F. Corey Ferris is going for a ride right now. Welcome to Ride Along, Corey. How are you?
I'm good, Howie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for taking time to go for a ride, and congratulations on that win Saturday night. Man, you definitely had that car hooked up.
Thanks for having me, Howie. Yeah, I mean, thanks again for congratulating me. Car drove pretty good. Definitely was right where we needed it to be. Starting out front definitely helps a little bit too.
That helps, but sometimes that hurts because you jumped out to the lead and you didn't really have anything to gauge off of. Where people were, you probably almost kind of boring in that car.
No, I mean, I guess I wouldn't say all that. But I knew right after I jumped out to the lead and I knew I had to run. Steven, before the race, he told me, he said, "Hey, I'm starting right behind you and I'm coming. So be ready." And I was thinking in my head, all right, if I can get out to the front, I just got to run away. And I mean, there's a lot of good drivers. Dakota, he was definitely fast this past week. It's just, I think he ended up losing it in turn 2 on the second lap, but I ended up getting up front and I knew Hazlitt was coming around. Anthony was coming around. These guys, they're quick. They're really hard to beat. Once they're in front of you, it's have a hard time getting back in front of them. So, knew it would have struggled a little bit, but once I got up front, I tried to take off and not look back.
It almost looked like the car was effortless in racing. And they say when it looks like that, it's really when it was working. Did it seem like that was the best that car had ever been?
It was definitely good. There's a few things that we could change. My dad being in the car for the Father's Day race, he drove it and he said, "I don't know how you drive this thing." He was thinking it was too tight, couldn't get the car to turn. But I mean, it worked for me, obviously. So just different driving styles, I think. But it was definitely on. I didn't really struggle with it. There were a couple times that I think I might have been a little tight, but I just needed to really set the car first before I started getting back in the gas, try to avoid getting a push so I could run the best that I could. But it was definitely not a bad car to drive. It was fast and it felt real fast. Steven and Dakota were telling me the same thing after the race. They said it just seemed like we were running real fast out front of everybody. So it did feel good on Saturday.
Now, you mentioned your dad, so let's go back to the beginning. How did you get involved in racing?
So my dad actually started, I think it was 14 years ago. We had never really, been into cars or anything like that. Obviously, as a little kid, you like cars and stuff. They're cool to look at and fun. But he actually, he started out in a fantasy NASCAR league. And for Christmas, my mom had got him a NASCAR driving experience at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we went on vacation to Charlotte, North Carolina. And he went and drove. And as soon as we got back from vacation, he said, I think I want to drive a race car. So he got in touch with Gary Sisson. who hooked him up with Mike Doritsky, and he bought one of Mike Doritsky's old street stocks from Roaring Knob. And that's kind of how he got started. I'd help him out a little bit. And over the years, kind of came through. It was not last year, the year before, we were at Lernerville, and he was saying, maybe, do you think you're going to want to drive one day? And I was like, absolutely, it'd be awesome. And he was like, well, I'm not ready to quit and give up yet. So if you want to drive, we're going to have to find you another car. We ended up, Todd Weldon had a car for sale. We talked to him about it a little bit. We got it. Needed some work done to it. So we had Chris Schneider help us out a little bit on that. And here we are, 14 years later in a pure stock at Latrobe.
Now, you were around the street stocks, which is now a pro stock.
Mm-hmm.
And your dad had one. And, you'd mentioned that he made the statement he wasn't ready to quit driving. But honestly, since you've been on the track, he hasn't had his car out. So, I guess it was a good move for you to go into the pure stock to learn how to race. I mean, it's not like you ran go-karts or did any type of racing per se that you were just progressing up. You were basically starting.
Right. So, yeah, since we got my car out, it's, one race car is a lot of work. Two is even more. So he ended up blowing up a motor. So getting motor parts right now was definitely difficult. Took about a year to get everything that we needed. So still have to put it back in the car and get his car ready. But we've just been so busy with my car and everything else. So we haven't really been able to get him back on the track, but he wanted to take a step back for, to get me ready and racing, kind of a full season. And he still wants to drive, but it's going to take a little bit of work to get there.
Now, when the pro stock gets together, are you going to try to convince Dad to let you drive that and put him into the pure stock, or you're going to stay with your car for a while?
I think the plan for right now is he's going to drive the pro stock for, X amount of time, however long he wants to stick in it. I'm going to still drive this pure stock and hopefully, continue to get better and improve. Like you said, I really didn't really drive much before this. So I am still learning. There's still a lot to learn. I mean, setup wise and everything. There's so many different variables that come into play that make it, fun to learn and get better and improve. But whenever he's, ready to, hang his hat and have me pretty much be the sole driver of our race team is, I think maybe he'll let me drive the pro stock. Hopefully he doesn't get rid of it before I can get in it. But I would really like to get in it and see what it has. I've been watching that car for, I want to say 7 or 8 years now. And it's really, he likes it a whole lot. It's a good chassis. It's a SNS chassis. So I'd like to see what it has.
And you mentioned before when you got this car off Weldon, you took it up to Chris Schneider and had him go through it and make the changes needed for it to compete in the pure stock division. And it just shows a lot, Father's Day weekend. And, your dad basically, when you decided you were going to get into racing, he made the statement, I'm not ready to get out. But he hasn't been in a car since, except for Saturday night when you let him run the Father's Day Invitational. And I'll tell you what, the first 3 laps he ran, man, I thought it was you in the car. It was so smooth and it was so fast. And, they had that caution. And I don't want to say it got rattled, but I just think the adrenaline might have escaped him for a minute. And then once he got rolling again, he did finish second, which is not a bad finish out of, there was 9 or 10 cars there. But I thought for sure after the way he ran, we'd be seeing that pro stock out maybe in next time we race here, not this week, the following week.
He he definitely impressed me a little bit. It's been over a year, I think almost 2 years now since he's been in a car. So, and I mean, he's been saying I know I can, still do everything. I just got to, freshen up a little bit and race. So I'm really glad he got to get in my car and, get the feel again and be out there and not have all his nerves worked up for when we get the pro stock ready. He just really did impress me when he took off, and then he was a good bit ahead of everybody, and then caution kind of came out. He got stuck behind that lap car, and the caution came out, so everybody got all bunched up together. Anthony's car, his dad, Tool, was driving, so I knew that was going to be some competition. He's definitely he's had done his fair share of driving and doing good, so I was waiting. I was excited to see what was going to happen. He ended up getting in front of my dad, and he tried to run him down. But I think the track was just a little too slick. We didn't change anything from the feature earlier on. So I think my dad was he figured, I don't want to tear up anything and let's just go for it and have fun. But it was really nice to see the smile on his face when he got out of the car. And I definitely could tell he's missing it. He wants to get back in. So we got to get this car ready this year to compete a little bit.
Now, what made you decide to come to Latrobe when you started your career?
Well, so the way that it worked is my dad was running similar cars that I run right now, kind of like a pure stock, but they were street stocks at Roaring Knob. But it ended up there were some changes that went through, and they were kind of running like pro stock rules. So he ended up buying this new car, and this was, like I said, like 7 or 8 years ago. And he ran up there for 2 years, I think, up at Roaring Knob. And then Latrobe opened back up, and people were saying it's a really nice track, and they were really happy that it was back open. I was like, we should go up there and try it out. So I think he started racing there in 2000. I can't remember if it was 19 or 20, but he raced there for a few races throughout the season, and he kind of just figured this is now my home track. Like, I like this track. I love the people that run it. They run it well. They're very respectful. They're for the fans and for the drivers. So definitely he was happy with the way that the track was handled and everything. So when it was time for me to run, he figured, well, why not? Let's race at Latrobe. Like, that's our home track. It's just about the same distance as Roaring Knob. And I was a little nervous about a half mile at first. I thought it was going to be fast, but now I really do like the fast half mile at Latrobe. It's fun, and you are flying at the end of the straightaway, but it is a really nice track to run at.
What was it like the first time you got in the car and going down those long straightaways? And nobody ever wants to admit they were nervous or scared or anything like that, but I know it's hard when you're there with your dad, and your dad, who is a racer, he was probably like, hey Corey, if you're not sure if you want me to take the car out and we can wean you into this instead of letting you go at it, but what was it like just getting in that car and doing it?
Well, so my seat, I mean, we squeezed a minute for this Father's Day race, but when we first got the car, my seat's significantly smaller than his is. So he would always say, like, I can't get in this car and test it for you. So when we finally got it up there, it was actually on my birthday last year. So it was a pretty nice birthday gift to get to race for the first time up there. He just said, go out there, feel it out, do what you can. Like, you're not out here, you don't have to impress anybody. Just go race and go out for hot laps. So I went out there, and I was definitely nervous, a little scared. But I got out there and was very timid. But I was also nervous because it was, a fresh car. I mean, there were some new parts on it, and I really didn't want to, hit anything just by not being able to handle the car or anything. But I came in, and my dad was like, yeah, like you did good, but you can go faster. And I was like, do you want me to go faster? And he was like, yeah. So in the heat race, I tried to kick it up a little bit, and I did pretty decent. I can't remember where I finished in the heat race my first night, but I ended up finishing 7th in the feature. I think there were like 10 or 12 cars or something. So I didn't finish last on the track. I was definitely happy, content with that. And then after that, it kind of just got a little better. I got more comfortable with everything. I got more comfortable with the car itself. I kind of had a better idea of what it was going to do, how much gas I could give it, when I needed to hit the brake, how hard I needed to turn. Just learning all of that was definitely a little bit of a learning curve. But now I feel very comfortable in that car. Just little things here and there to get a little bit faster. can help with, these guys in this division. There's a lot of fast guys here.
And it didn't take you long to get up into the top 5 and start contending. Like I said, as a rookie, you picked up 2 wins, and something to be very proud of.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely feels good to do well, get Rookie of the Year. It was very nice to get recognized for that. I was really trying. It's something that I've watched my dad do, been really into following and learning and trying to figure out how do you do this? How do you get in a car? How do you drive it? But now obviously we're trying to run a full season, run every race, and just trying to be as fast as we can, and still run everybody clean and be competitive with everybody there.
And one thing I noticed, you came in and you're more worried about, listen, I don't care if I'm running the body that was on it. You didn't even put, the only thing you did was you took off Todd's number, you put your number on, and went racing that first year. And actually, a couple weeks ago, you actually finally started getting your sponsors on. But, you were there to learn, and you're like, listen, I know I'm going to tear it up. So let's just, the body on it's fine. And there's nothing wrong with a new body, and I'm not saying that there is, but you said, let's just focus and spend the money where we need to. In the car, in the motor. I don't need to have a flashy decal package. And that's one thing with your dad. He never really had a fancy car. It's always been a black car, white number, and white sponsors. And that's, kind of what your car is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely, our cars do look very similar. The color scheme is pretty much the same. He did have a couple cars, way back when that looked a little different there. He had an orange car with some blue and yellow on it. He had a white car one time, but it did have a spray painted 3 on it for a good while. So he was never real big about being flashy or anything. He figured, if we're going to do this, let's put the money where it needs to be into the racing itself. But when we've got this car, it's an old chassis. We ended up buying a used motor. So my dad pretty much, he was thinking like, okay, we'll get an old car, an old motor. You just go out there, learn the ropes, figure out how it's, going to handle. And if you can, do this. But I ended up, being able to perform pretty decent, I think. And, he was very surprised, based on the equipment that we had, how good I was doing. But now we ended up putting a new body on, not this past race, but the race before. Right after that, we put a new body on, and in the heat race, ended up getting doored a little bit, put a hole in the new door, ripped the whole number off of it. So I had to get a new number up for it for this week. But it's really not about the looks of the car. It really is about, how the car performs, how you drive it. We finally got some stickers on it. I got more coming. Picked up, my sister's helping me out. She's a therapist, a licensed therapist. She's going to sponsor the car. And my uncle, he has a company, Ellis and Ferris Surface Solutions. They're going to be on the car too, for this next race. Just got to get the stickers on there. We're picking them up this week. So it'll look a little better. But for now, all black car with a white number, a little bit of red accent. I still think it looks pretty nice.
Oh, without a doubt. And you mentioned, let's not forget, you had that incident in the heat where you caught the front stretch wall and, that rear quarter. And, I remember years ago, there was a guy who used to race down at Latrobe Speedway, Jason Lasky. And when he started, his dad said, listen, we're just putting numbers on this car. I'm not decaling it because I know you're going to knock a body off of it. And about mid-season, I remember I was talking to him, and I said, come on, Stan, he's ready for decals. And they decaled the car up, and that Friday night they took it to Motordrome, and the car went home about 6 feet shorter in the rear. And Stan looked at me and said, this is your fault. And I said, why? He said, you convinced me to put the decals on. I said, yeah, those decals weighed the car down, and he ended up being in that position where he should have been one higher. And he looked at me and goes, "This is making sense to me. I'd shut up, Howie, if I was you." And I said, "All right, Sam." You know, just impressed that, you know, you came out and you wanted to get that job done. And like you even said, the car looks like your dad's. And that's not a bad thing. But,
No.
you know, that's not a bad legacy to go after is your dad. He's, you know, won some features through the years, but always been a very clean and respectful driver.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he really does do a ton for me. I mean, not only with racing, just in my life in general. He helps me out a lot. So I definitely like to, you know, support him and thank him for everything that he does. He really does just help me out with anything. If I have any questions about anything, he's always the one I go to first. So having a car that looks like his, I mean, I love the color scheme. I like cars with black bodies on them. A little bit of red, a little bit of white. It may change in the future a little bit, but for the most part, I think they look really sleek. And that's kind of just what I grew up rooting for. So I think that's kind of where I got that feel for it. When we bought the car and it had a black body on it, I figured just put a white number with a little bit of red on it, and you know, we'll go racing.
Actually, you're wearing one of the Ferris shirts, Ferris Carpet Outlet shirts, and
Yes, I am.
Kind of ironic. It's the same color scheme. You got some red on one sleeve, and you know, mainly black and some white lettering. So you know, I guess we figured out the mystery where it came from.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. Also, I work with my dad too, and I also live with him, so we spend a lot of time together. So definitely there's some similarities there between me and him for sure. But with racing, definitely, I love that he got into it and we got into this hobby together. Kind of when I was younger, he was, you know, on his own, but he would bring me out to the garage and we'd tinker around and do stuff. And I would do some small things because, I mean, I think 10 years old whenever he started. But as the older that I got, I had some more responsibility. And we would go, you know, sometimes just me and him racing. We headed down to Elkins one time, and he ended up starting on the outside pole. And I looked at him, and I said, "Dad, look, if you can get out front, just take off and don't look back." And he ended up, that was his like first official feature win. And it was just me and him there. I ended up running across the infield, muddy, got my shoes, ruined my shoes and everything. But I don't think either of us could have been any happier that night.
I think you were happier. I think your dad might have been happier the night you win.
I know he was definitely happy for sure. He was surprised, but you know, I do this for, you know, him. I mean, obviously it's fun. It's great. It's an awesome hobby. It keeps you busy, which is good too. But he puts so much work into it. I feel like, you know, driving this car, I not that I have to perform well, but I should do the best that I can just because he does, you know, as much as he can for me. I gotta, you know, return in some way.
Hey, Corey, let's go ahead now and thank everybody who helps make your racing possible. And let's talk about that pit crew, because I'm sure it's just more than you and your dad.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like I said, my dad, but Jim Crossland, he helps out a ton. It's actually where we keep our car. It's at his garage. So luckily, he helps us out. Steve Mitchell, he does a good bit of running around. He helped us a lot last year. He helped us this year. He races in the pro stocks with my dad. Chris Schneider, an SNS chassis. You know, he's always, you know, supportive and helpful. If we got any questions, he's always willing to help, always willing to, you know, maybe try this or try that, see if that helps any. Also, Johnny Phelan, he helps us out a good bit too. You know, he helped us get the car ready, not this past week, but the week before. He helped us all week, putting the new body on and everything. Can't forget my family, my sisters, my mom, their significant others, my girlfriend Ashton. She travels a long way to come see me race, and she's been to everyone this year, and I really do appreciate that. Ferris Carpet, my sponsor. Thanks to them for sure, for helping me out too. Like I said, my sister Chelsea, she's a therapist. She is hopping on the car. Also, my uncle Richard, his company, Ellis and Ferris Surface Solutions, they'll be on the car too. other people I want to thank, all the drivers, everyone in my division. I mean, you can ask anybody. They're your competition, but if you need something, they don't hesitate to help you out. They want to, they're out there trying to beat you, but they want to beat you at your best. And that's just great competition, great sportsmanship. And also, fans, everybody that comes out to the track and supports us, without them, none of us would be doing it. We wouldn't be able to have fun and really go out there and race and enjoy, the things that we do and spend all this time getting everything ready. It's really for them. Also, Latrobe Speedway in general. I mean, everyone involved there, they really do help out a whole lot, and very nice, very easy to work with. They're really, really good people. Really glad that this track's, catching some traction and picking up, getting bigger car counts, bigger crowds and everything. It's great to see.
Well, Corey, we appreciate your time. Thanks for going for a ride. And again, race fans, that was Corey Ferris, best driver of the Joe's Auto Body and Towing Pure Stock, sponsored by Ferris Carpet and Tile, car number 22F. And trust me, he'll be going to Victory Lane more this year. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you, Howie.
Race fans, that's going to conclude another edition of Ride Along with Howie, sponsored by SMB Promotions, Latrobe Speedway, Joe's Auto Body and Towing. And we want to give a special thanks to all of our track sponsors. That includes Specialty Metals, K2 Engineering, Rock Auto, Seal Tight, DJS Swag, Stone and Company, Vinyl Destination, SMB Promotion, and most importantly, we want to thank you, the fans, for patronizing our track, and please patronize all the sponsors that keep racing going. Don't forget, we're off this Saturday, but we'll see you in 2 Saturdays at Latrobe at the races. Thanks again, race fans, and we'll see you at the races.